Avatar: The Last Airbender, not to be confused with a movie about blue people or even lumped together with that unholy, god-awful live-action remake by M. Night Shyamalan. The only Shyamalan twist being that Shyamalan decided this was somehow a good use of his time. Avatar: The Last Airbender was a surprisingly deep, powerful, and engaging story, ostensibly written for kids, that found an audience of all ages, telling the story of a 12-year-old boy, Aang, a reincarnation of the Avatar, a master bender who can control all four elements, water, earth, fire, air, who journeys to end a 100-year-old war initiated by a murderous imperialist fire nation. Avatar: The Last Airbender really delves into morality, honor, pride, duty, and sacrifice.
Hey! I got my eye on you.
The cast numbers in the hundreds, so we had to make some difficult choices on who to include and who to kick to the cabbages. Sorry, Appa lovers, but only humans made the cut this time around. So, who's a savior and who is a sinner? Stick around to find out. I'm Brad with Wicked Binge, and this is Avatar: The Last Airbender, Good to Evil.
But that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Starting off with little surprise is Aang, the Avatar.
I'm the Avatar.
Or at least the most current incarnation of the Avatar. In the original series, we'll leave Korra for another day. A 12-year-old boy and the only remaining airbender, Aang has to grapple with being the foretold hero of the world, the one to bring balance to the elements and end the 100 years war between the nations, while also making the change from boy to man. Save the world, learn to master the elements, grow up. You know, the usual preteen stuff. As a result, sometimes the gravity of the situation can nearly overwhelm Aang, often bringing out some of his more childish impulses. But if sledding on a penguin is the worst vice the Avatar can drum up, the world is in good hands. Aang is a pacifist, a reluctant warrior, who doesn't seek to bring revenge upon the Fire Nation for starting the war and killing all other airbenders.
Settling feuds and making peace.
But he seeks to bring peace and save his loved ones. His growing love for Katara runs into his need to rid himself of earthly desires, but this proves just how righteous he, the Avatar, is, as he has to weigh his obligations to the world, to his family, neither option being a selfish one. Truly, what tips the scales for Aang as the best or purest character is his solution to how to defeat Fire Lord Ozai, the main villain and leader of the Fire Nation. All of his advisors have determined he must kill Ozai, but Aang, the pacifist he is determined to find another way. He goes on a spiritual quest to find an alternative, a special form of bending, to remove Fire Lord Ozai's ability to bend fire, thus rendering Ozai powerless, but while still sparing his life. Moving on to our second purest character, Katara, a waterbender from the Southern Water Tribe. Katara, like Aang, had a lot of responsibility thrust upon her at an early age.
Trying to keep everyone together.
With her mom killed by the Fire Nation and her father gone to war, Katara had to serve as a mother figure to her brother Sokka, a hot-headed warrior in his own right. Katara has a profoundly strong inner moral compass, as well as an advanced sense of empathy. Her senses of obligation, duty, and justice sometimes put her at odds with the rest of Team Avatar, and her distrust of Zuko once he turns good is a major source of conflict. But these conflicts, like Aang's, stem from a disconnect on which moral choice to weigh heavily. This choice is heavily externalized in the bloodbending episode, in which Katara has to turn a taboo and vicious form of waterbending, bending the blood in someone's body, against a mentor who has been murdering Fire Nation villagers as revenge for attacks on the Water Tribe.
Controlling the water in another body.
In the end, Katara has to choose mercy to villagers over loyalty to a nation, and on top of that, use forbidden bloodbending in the process. Whew. Heavy stuff. Up next, we have Iroh, uncle to Prince Zuko, brother to the current Fire Lord Ozai. Iroh is an interesting character, and that a lot of his development and growth happened before the events of the show. When we first meet Iroh, he's the caring, zen-like mentor to the hot-headed Zuko in the prince's quest to find the Avatar. A sweet old man aiding his nephew in a quest to restore his honor. What's not to like? Except for the unstated consequence of finding the Avatar and killing him. In reality, however, Iroh is a lot deeper. He originally was next in line to become the next Fire Lord and was a powerful and glory-seeking general. The death of his son at the siege of Ba Sing Se fundamentally changed him, and he renounced his warmongering ways in favor of a life of simplicity, kinship, and spiritual growth. His unending support of his nephew, his respect for the spirits and the Four Nations, and his desire to bring peace to the world are learned morals. He gained these through seeing the error of his previous ways. His love and mentorship ultimately allowed Zuko to have his own change of heart. both defecting from the Fire Nation to help Team Avatar put an end to the war. Plus, he makes the best cup of tea in all the 4 nations. Moving on, we have Roku, the previous incarnation of the Avatar. Roku was a firebender, good friend to the Fire Lord Sozin, who initiated the 100 Years' War. Okay, it may seem like cheating to list 2 versions of the Avatar separately from each other, but Roku is a unique character in his own right. He falls below Iroh, not for particularly anything less good about him, but just because Iroh went through such a profound and beautiful shift to goodness and enlightenment. Roku serves as one of Aang's spiritual guides, helping Aang in his quest to end the war. In his time as Avatar, Roku had to grapple with seeing how his best friend Sozin was corrupted by the love of power. Roku forcefully intervened with his best friend, putting an end to his colonialist impulses, or so he thought, and sparing his life.
I'm sparing you, Sozin.
Eventually, Roku dies in the aftermath of a volcanic explosion, thanks to being abandoned by Sozin, who hopes to use his friend's death to finally launch his war for global domination. Roku's legacy is complicated, as he sacrificed a friendship to avert a war, but it is this exact same sacrificed friendship that ultimately became his undoing and put the world at war. Next is Suki, the leader of the Kyoshi warriors on Kyoshi Island. Suki is a proud, accomplished warrior who has a strong sense of right and wrong and is never afraid to speak her mind. However, even in her pride and strength, her put-downs come with a form of growth and teaching. Her schooling of Sokka taught him not to underestimate women, but to value their strength and wisdom, thus allowing others to grow as well.
Anything else you want to teach us?
For being a source of strength, a valued role model, and a great ally to Team Avatar, Suki lands strongly in the good category.
A big, strong man like you? We wouldn't stand a chance.
For our 6th spot, we have Sokka. Often seen as the comic relief character, Sokka enters the show headstrong, sarcastic, and sexist.
Normally I'd hold a grudge, but seeing as you guys are a bunch of girls, I'll make an exception.
He, like his sister, had to grow up fast, being one of the few remaining men in the Southern Water Tribe. However, with this responsibility came a bit of a sense of delusion, and he took to seeing himself as a great and masterful warrior.
After all, I'm the best warrior in my village.
Over the course of the show, Sokka continually faces humiliations, often hilarious ones, that force him to let go of his old attitudes, embrace the knowledge that others can give him, and in turn, use those newfound skills to help bring peace to the world.
Do I really have to wear this? It feels a little girly.
Moving on to number 7, we have Toph, giving Sokka a run for his money as sassiest member of Team Avatar.
You been hitting the cactus juice again?
Toph, the blind master earthbender, is as blunt and bold as the earth she bends. Her integration into Team Avatar is, pun intended, a bit rocky at the start, as she has difficulty accepting that not only must she help others, but rely on others' help as well. Coming from a noble family and being reluctant to lend a hand, her behavior certainly comes across as bratty and selfish. But like the rest of our good gang, she develops over the course of the show, becoming a source of stability for Team Avatar.
And when I say head on, I mean like this.
Next up is Zuko. Starting in the beginning of the show, Zuko easily makes a case for being on the evil end of the spectrum, hell-bent on conquest.
The safety of the crew doesn't matter.
As the show unwinds, however, it becomes clear that Zuko is in it to restore his honor and gain approval of the ones he respects. This position becomes unstable, as Zuko's love of his uncle begins to run counter to his respect for his father. He ultimately makes several regrettable decisions along the way, such as siding with his sister against his uncle at the end of Book 2, making him a war hero back home in the Fire Nation.
Father will welcome you as a war hero.
However, his status as war hero doesn't bring him the peace he desires. Instead, through the help of his uncle, Zuko figures out a new path to becoming an honorable man, not through conquest, but through peace and inner drive. He ultimately defects to Team Avatar, becoming Aang's fire-bending master, and eventually, using his strength to defeat his sister, become the new Fire Lord, and use his power to atone for the sins of the Fire Nation. For his reversal and incomparable growth, Zuko stands out as a dynamic yet ultimately good character. We decided on a tie for 9th place, Ty Lee and Mai. A cop-out? Yeah, probably. But these Fire Nation warriors and friends of Azula, while being polar opposites in personalities, both have a similar arc through the show. While Mai comes from an aristocratic family and Ty Lee is a circus acrobat, they both possess unique fighting abilities. Mai throws knives, Ty Lee manipulates chi. Both work with Azula to overthrow Ba Sing Se, and both have a change of heart at roughly the same time.
I want to join you on your mission.
Mai's love of Zuko causes her to betray Azula late in the series, allowing Zuko to help the Avatar.
I love Zuko more than I fear you.
As punishment, Mai must face Azula in an Agni Kai, meaning likely death for Mai. Right before the duel starts, Ty Lee also betrays Azula, blocking Azula's chi, thus stopping her from killing Mai. For this reason, they wind up a tie. Why they're lower than Zuko is because their reasons for a shift from supporting evil to supporting good are more rooted in love and friendship than any real overriding sense of morality. Not evil, just not super good. Up next, we have the Cabbage Merchant. Fan favorite, the Cabbage Merchant seems to be always in the wrong place at the wrong time, having his cabbage crop destroyed by the antics of Team Avatar time and time again. So why does he rank so low on our list? First of all, he called for the execution of the Avatar over busting his cabbage cart. Second, his merchandise was infected with banana slugs. That's pretty dangerous. And finally, he completely sold out the Avatar story to playwright Puan Tim for the writer's play, The Boy in the Iceberg. Way to cash in on your cabbage crashes, buddy. Making our way to the opposite end of the spectrum, we have Combustion Man, aka Sparky Boob Man. Combustion Man is an assassin hired by Zuko to kill Aang. He holds the unique ability to create and project explosions through a tattoo on his forehead. A ruthless tracker, he stopped at nothing to defeat Aang and his friends. He was eventually undone by his arrogance and relentless pursuit, as Sokka fortuitously blocked Combustion Man's chi with a well-timed boomerang to the forehead. Instead of retreating, Combustion Man readied his attack anyway, exploding himself in the process. Now for some of the crueler characters. Let's move on to Admiral Zhao. Cruel, cunning, and dishonorable. Admiral Zhao is defined by the lengths he went to in order to achieve his victories, as well as his rage and defeat. Losing an Agni Kai to Zuko, Zhao cursed Zuko for showing mercy and then attempted to strike the victor when his back was turned.
That's it? Your father raised a coward.
He took his immorality to new lengths at the Siege of the North, when he disregarded all warnings and personally killed the living spirit of the moon, depriving waterbenders of their source of strength, but also throwing nature out of balance. He was ultimately defeated by Aang and the Ocean Spirit, who used their fused power to wipe out his fleet. Arrogant to the end, Zhao rejects Zuko's assistance and is pulled down into the depths by the spirit of the ocean. We've made it to the final three. Complicated, calculating, conflicted, but unabashedly evil. All three of these characters could have their own 15-minute video, dedicated to diving into their personalities. At number 3 most evil, we have Azula, Princess of the Fire Nation. Cold and remorseless, Azula is a narcissistic, sadistic perfectionist who views total supremacy over herself and others as the only goal worth striving for. She treats her friends and family as tools or roadblocks on her path to victory, and as a result, is an exceptionally talented manipulator.
That's why you're afraid to care about anything, and why you can't express yourself.
Her relentless drive for perfection is externalized in her precise and masterful use of blue flame firebending. However, underneath this veneer of perfection lies fragility. Azula knows that she's a monster. She knows that she will never be perfect, and she knows that she's driving away the ones that love her. This inner fragility is thrust to the surface when Mai and Ty Lee betray her, and she quickly spirals into insanity.
I know what you really think of me. You think I'm a monster.
Readily seen in how loose and flamboyant her once tight firebending becomes. At her defeat by Zuko and Katara, she bursts into uncontrollable animal-like sobs. She's broken. She broke herself. For our second most evil pick, we had the penultimate baddie and the big bad of the show, Fire Lord Ozai. He's the current leader of the Fire Nation and father to Zuko and Azula. He's a power-hungry warhawk, and like his father and grandfather, shows no mercy. He nearly killed his own son at the order of his own father Azulan.
From our airships we will rain fire over their lands.
Before allowing his wife to poison Azulan instead, and then sending her into exile. Once crowned Fire Lord, Ozai would continue to dispense cruelty against his family, forcing his son into an Agni Kai and brutally burning Zuko's face when he refused to face off against his father. From there, he sent Zuko off on a supposedly impossible quest to find the lost avatar. Beyond that, he continued the tyrannical war of his grandfather and attempted to commit genocide against the people of Ba Sing Se. His cruelty to his family, use of murder and violence, and willingness to commit genocide firmly land him as, yeah, definitely evil. Finally, we've made it to number 1. I mean, who could be more evil than Fire Lord Ozai? He was all cool with genocide and everything. But it's a tough call, but in first place as most evil is Fire Lord Sozin. The great-grandfather of Zuko and instigator of the 100 Years' War, Sozin let the lust for power and glory not only corrupt himself, but the entire Fire Nation as a result.
Together we could do anything.
He attempted to corrupt his friend Avatar Roku into supporting an imperialist agenda before being brutally beaten into submission. In his later years, his desire for glory overwhelmed his sense of friendship, and he betrayed his old friend Roku, letting him die in a volcano explosion, paving the way for Sozin to start his world domination. He then completely remade the Fire Nation into an absolutist, imperialist monarchy, with himself at the center and a godlike cult of personality. He harnessed the power of a comet to commit genocide against the Airbenders in hopes of killing the next Avatar. Amazingly, the Avatar escaped, thus making his near-total annihilation of the Airbenders a personal failure, a failure that would eventually bring about the end of his maniacal war over 100 years later. Woo! What do you think? Which character do you think is the most evil? And who deserves the number 1 spot for good? Let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget to tell us what cartoons and animated films we should feature on Good to Evil next. Legend of Korra, anyone? Remember to hit that notification bell, and most importantly, stay wicked.